Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 6 of Brews and Belters. No music this week, unfortunately. Soundman Brendan's slacking a little bit, but that's all right. We'll give him a break here. As always, I am Keegan Gowitz. I am here today sipping on an English Amber boxcar from Raised Grain Brewing Company. And per usual, I'm joined by.
Jack Butler, and today I am drinking a staple in the household, which is a Three Floyds Zombie Dust. Can't go wrong with the zombie.
Like it. I am Toby Henefeld. I am not drinking a staple in the Henefeld house, but I'm drinking a Boulevard Brewing Company Tank 7 American Saison. Just popped it open, 8.5%. Seems like it's pretty good, but kind of shitty situation. I just found out today, like after I bought it, that Boulevard's like kind of in a bad light right now because they have a bunch of like HR issues. They like let go of their I think their CEO or someone like that because they have like a bunch of in-house HR issues that were kind of like thrown out there on Reddit. And so it's like kind of shitty. So I feel kind of bad drinking it. Like I'm like, what the?
Yeah,
Like,
we'll go ahead and not plug them.
Like I guess like there was some boss that was like a dick to his employees and like specifically pregnant women. And so like this whole thing's going on right now, and like it's literally as new as like today. So I didn't know about it because it kind of reminded me. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the drama. I don't even say drama, but the shit going on at Founders when they had like super racist employees. Like I stopped drinking. I'm like I won't. Like that's a big thing for me. Is like I don't like I want to support good companies. I want to support like shitty companies. So I don't drink Founders at all.
Moral compass,
Yeah, moral compass. Thank you. So that's kind of how. So each time I drink this, I'm like, like a little bit, but I just bought it, so I kind of have to roll with it. So
he won't drink beer made by racists or beer that's made by InBev. Toby was the first guy I know that ever boycotted Goose Island when Goose Island got bought by InBev.
Goose Island, Ballast Point, Elysian Brewing. Ballast Point was just rebought by someone else out of Chicago. So now Chicago owns the California Brewing. Yeah, but that's the facts you get when you listen to Brews and Belters. So a little bit of soccer, a little bit of brewing.
We drink local here.
Yes, sir.
And everybody, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Brews and Belters. Obviously, you can find the pod on YouTube. Just search Brews and Belters. Give us a little subscribe, a little like if you don't mind. Certainly helps build the brand a little bit. Today we're going to go through some of the matches we watched this past week. Of course, we're going to talk Chelsea and Frank Lampard. Then we've got some other news, our Belters of the week, and then our Cheers and Booze. So, Dope Dog, why don't you kick us off this week with the matches that you
watched? So I watched quite a bit of games with midweek games happening this week. There's games on today I didn't really catch that much of. But then there was games midweek last week in the Premier League. FA Cup played during the weekend. And then there was a Serie A, Bundesliga, all that during the week as well. So I'm just going to run through the FA games I watched. I watched Chelsea and Luton Town. That was a 3-1 for Chelsea. Tottenham and Wickham. That game was the 4-1, but it was close the entire game. Wickham like has nothing to play for. They made it up into the championship like as kind of like a storied season last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was when they got brought up. And they've kind of been just hovering at the bottom of the pack. I think they're 10 games behind the second to the last team, so they're going to be relegated this year. But they have nothing to lose, and so they played like it. They have some big ass dudes on their team that throw their weight around, and so they took it to Tottenham and hung with them real well. They kind of have like I was telling Keegan earlier, like their coach is like kind of like looks like a rock star, wears like a vintage chic like leather jacket, and their slogan is like rock and roll soccer. They're actually one of their main sponsors is a record label, which is kind of cool. Like you never see stuff like that, but I mean, welcome to like a team that shouldn't be in the championship that's in the championship. It's like like the local furnace companies their sponsor. So it just worked out for them. And then the other FA game I watched was Liverpool and United, which I'll get more into Liverpool a little bit later as well. But that game ended 3-2 with United taking that one from them and kicking Liverpool out. So some of the big teams in the Premier League were ousted this weekend out of the FA Cup. So it's looking pretty good for Tottenham. It's looking good for Chelsea to kind of keep going with this. Tottenham, I think, plays this weekend or next weekend against Everton. That will be their next draw. So then the Bundesliga, we had RB Leipzig and Mainz. And that was a 3-2 RB Leipzig loss, but Tyler Adams got on the score sheet. Thought that was kind of nice. And then I did watch, I was trying to get in Jack Spear and watch Schalke and Bayern Munich, and that was a beatdown Bayern Munich put on them. And I was hoping that like Hopi would do something, and he was good, but just not a lot of firepower. And my Bayern Munich was looking like they could be had, but then they just turned it on like that and just went to town on them. And something else I noticed that was kind of random, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, Bayern Munich have a ton of mustache guys on their team. Like Serge Gnabry, Sane had one. I think maybe one of the Germans did too. I want to say Kimmich. But yeah, so they had a couple mustaches.
So they're in for the mustaches, like Leeds is in for the man bun, like that's their thing.
Mm-hmm.
The man.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Did Sane start? I didn't watch that game. Did he start?
I can't remember if he did. He definitely played, which was kind of telling because remember last game you were talking about when he got pulled off,
right?
After being subbed on. So yeah, so then
he's been in better form.
Oh, definitely. He looks like he's happier there too than he ever was when he was playing in the Premier League. Which I think is telling as well because I didn't know how he would fit in the Bundesliga, but he's doing just fine. And then honestly, I have some Premier League games I'm going to go over as well, but the two games I thought were the best games since our last podcast a week ago was the Serie A Super Cup final, which was Juventus and Napoli. Juventus won 2-0. That was an awesome game. I'm really, after like 4 weeks ago, not watching any Serie A. Like I remember when we were like, oh, let's open it up to everything, not just Premier League. And Keegs is like, oh, I'll talk all Serie A. I'm like, I don't know anything. I can't pronunciate most of the guys' names. Like, so it's like I just am intimidated by it. But after getting ESPN Plus, like, dude, their games are so fun and there's so much action. And it's like, it's so crazy, like flipping from that to Bundesliga to Premier League and just seeing the different skill sets that like they scout, like that they compose their teams based on the style of play of that league. So it was a 2-0 win that the cup title went to Juventus. Weston McKennie got it, got a hold of trophy, which is cool. So they play that 4-4-2 style with Quadrado and McKennie on the right side, and it's working. Like I don't know if this is like the American Homer in me, but McKennie is like popping off the screen every time I watch him, and it's like not just playing his like typical like holding, like he's like a defender that plays offensively, but dude, he makes such good runs that actually I think opens up a lot of the field for Ronaldo and for the like ginger dude who plays up front with him. Yeah. I'm like, what is he doing out there? You're not good enough looking to be playing for.
People love him apparently.
Dude, he's good.
Yeah, nice left foot.
But he makes those runs that like someone has to make on that team to drag that defender with him to open up that run. And then, there's enough skill set behind him to like kind of give those through balls into the front. And it's really working with them. So I watched that. Go ahead.
Just to interrupt you for a minute, I just want to comment on that because it's a really good point to anyone listening who doesn't watch Serie A. And obviously, if you're looking for arguably the most fun American to watch right now because Pulisic isn't really getting quite as much shine or time on ball as he might want to get at Chelsea right now. McKennie is like his role is, I mean, he's kind of that box to box midfielder, and he's literally just all over the place, like Toby said. He's like, if I had to put it in NBA terms, he's like a slashing guard. Like he's constantly on the move. and I think I'm kind of reiterating what you said, but I think that's just a really good point
Yeah.
worth doubling down on. Like, he brings so much aggression to their attack, and then he'll sprint back and play defense, and he opens things up for him. So yeah,
That
definitely.
was on that game was on ESPN too, like on the flagship station. ESPN or ESPN2, one of the two. But it was on that. It wasn't even on. I mean, it was on ESPN Plus as well, but it was on that, which is cool. It's good for ESPN to like showcase those higher games. Like I get it if you don't want to put like a random Serie A game, but having that game that was like a cup final, I think it was definitely worth it. And then the other one I watched that was another Serie A was today's derby, in the Italian Cup, the Coppa Italia, and that was Inter Milan versus AC Milan. And dude, this game was by far the best game of the week. I was, as of yesterday, that the Super Cup was, but today's game was awesome, dude. So it ended up 2-1 Milan, or excuse me, Inter won that one. And dude, had literally everything you wanted. It had like a ton of chances, awesome goalkeeping, like a bunch of random guys that like I forget play for both of those teams. like Inter Milan have a ton of guys that I'm like, that's who plays for it. That's where he went. Like they have like all the Chileans like play on that team now. Like they couldn't make it in the Premier League, so they went back.
Arturo.
Yeah, Arturo and what's his name? The other one that played at City or United for a while.
He's from Peru though, Alexis Sanchez.
Oh, that's
isn't he?
I mean, it's all South America little area. But yeah, no, and then it had some crazy. It had some crazy PKs. Zlatan is always a go. Like he was talking shit, scored a goal, talked some shit with, of all people, Romelu Lukaku, and it was when Zlatan was in his own box on playing defense, and he was like talking shit, and they got yellow cards, and they like literally headbutted each other. Like they should have been, like, if that would Premier League, they both would have been thrown out. Go ahead, Keith.
Very quickly, who would win in a fist fight, Romelu Lukaku or Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
I think Lukaku would whoop the shit out of him.
Lukaku,
If it was a fist fight.
I think.
If it was a fist fight. Jack.
Then again, Zlatan's got those.
I don't know.
kicks.
I was gonna say Zlatan, like if he like kept him at like arm's length, like and Zlatan could just like start wailing on him from afar. Like Lukaku would have to like tackle him into the ground. If it's gonna go into the ground, Lukaku's definitely got the body build there. But if it's just gonna be like up, like and hitting jabs, yeah, I put money on Zlatan for that.
Have you seen Zlatan's warm up where he has the like coach standing there and he kicks up over his head, and like karate kicks over him? He does it back and forth. Like I'm like, can you imagine me that coach being like, God damn it, I'm out here right now with him doing this. So they both got yellow cards, and then this is like in the 40th minute, and then right after that, in the like 50th minute, he gets another yellow card for clipping at a guy's knees, backtracking in midfield or coming back to the midfield, and so he got a red and was sent off with the two yellows. In case you guys are wondering, rules: 2 yellows makes a red, and you get sent off. So yeah, that happened with him. But I guess in between that, when they were going, it was so heated. Lukaku said like had to be like restrained. Like he looked like he was gonna beat the shit out of him, and you hear Lukaku yelling, "Meet me in the tunnel." And Zlatan's walking to the tunnel, and he's like, "I'm headed that way." Like you see him, and then they were talking shit to the point where they were like saying like, I'm gonna F you and your mom. And then the other guy said, I'm gonna F you and your wife. And then the other guy said, I'm gonna F your wife and your mom. And then the other guy's like, you're talking about my mom? Like got offended by that. And it's like audio, you hear all of it. And he's like, say another word about my mom. I'm pretty sure it was Zlatan saying that in the background. And then because Lukaku said the like wife and mom comment. And dude, they had to keep Lukaku from going in there because Zlatan's like, I'm headed there right now. Like, let's go, bro. And dude, so that whole thing happened at halftime. And then he gets the other red, gets sent off. And so they're still up 1-0. And then there was a PK. I forget who drew it, but there was a PK, and Romelu Lukaku took it. And dude, he freaking, like, you could tell the adrenaline was going. Like, he took out, like, it was like reminded me of a water boy. Like, he probably put Zlatan's head on that ball and like kicked through it and smoked it so freaking hard. It was like reminded me of a crossbar challenge. Like, he smoked the crossbar and like barely went in. Like, it squeaked in, but dude, he was kicking a field goal and it was awesome. And so then it went into the like 90, it was like 95th minute, and there was another penalty or another foul right outside the 18, like literally right outside the 18. And by then Christian Eriksen had just came on, old Tottenham guy. And he came in and like, dude, that's like still his bread and butter, and he whipped it up and over the wall with like 8 yards in front of the box and took it and got the goal in the 97th minute, and that was it. Dude, it was such a good game. Like, I'm like, I think I want to start watching more Serie A than I even do Bundesliga, because Bundesliga is kind of becoming a farmers league where there's only like 2 or 3 good teams, I feel like, and then everyone else is kind of whatever. Like, I know that's a dumb statement.
No matter what, it's fun to watch though. It's such a adrenaline based league, and it's so competitive. And
Jack's like, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Jack is that Arthur Fist dream right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is true though. Like, and it sucks because we can go into this later, but like, this would be a year like no one is stepping up. Like Leverkusen's not stepping up, Leipzig's not stepping up. You know, Dortmund is down there. Like no one is stepping up to bring it to them, and this would be a year where you maybe could have like they've dropped points. That you could have like a really good top of the league, but yeah, like no one's trying to get to that point, which is unfortunate.
So,
and I think that's an interesting thing. Go ahead, Toby.
No, I'm gonna keep moving on, so keep talking then.
Well, yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing. You said we can talk on it later, but worth bringing up now, because I would argue these are the 3 leagues that we tend to focus on, you know, Premier League, Serie A, and Bundesliga. And all 3 leagues we've had this discussion about that it's up for grabs, and this is really the first year in a while that it's been up for grabs. You know, 2 years ago, City dominated the Premier. Well, 2 years ago and the year before that, City dominated Premier League. Last year, Liverpool dominated the Premier League. Juventus for the last decade has dominated Serie A. Bayern has dominated Liga. And it's just interesting that this year, obviously with everything that's happened with the pandemic and, you know, leagues being put on hold and everything, and clubs struggling financially, this would be the year that, you know, another club could slide in and possibly take the throne. But at the same time, those clubs who are battling to slide in are dealing with all those effects as well. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. We hear about how difficult this year is for clubs and for players, and then, you know, we've really seen that with those giants kind of falling, but still other teams can't quite make that jump yet. It's just kind of an interesting.
No, I hear you. Speaking of that, the games I watched in the Premier League, City Villa, that was a 2-0 for Villa, or it's 2-0 where City took down Villa. 2 things I really took away from that. One, Villa, like Ross Barkley, I hate that player. Like, he's such a pudwack, but he is actually very good at Aston Villa. Like, I did not like him at all at Chelsea. Really good at Villa. That's 1. 2, dude, there was a play. Villa was holding pretty strong with them for a while there. There was a play where I think it was I don't remember who it was. Silva maybe was in an offside position, okay? And they had the ball by midfield, and he's offside. And they kicked the ball from midfield towards him while he's in offside position. And Tyrone Mings chests the ball, and like, so he gets control of it, and it drops down in front of him, and he's getting ready to play on his foot. And Silva comes from an offside position, makes a tackle on him, and the ball squeaks out to, like, I don't even know, someone in the midfield, and it ends up leading to a goal within like 10 seconds from an offside position. But they ruled it that because he trapped it with his chest and then made a touch or two down by his feet, that when Silva came backtracking, that it brought him onside, is how the ref interpreted it at that very moment. And it was an onside play, and they did not call it offsides. And the same thing happened in Juventus and Napoli, where Cristiano Ronaldo did the same thing, tackled a guy from an offside position, but he came onside, made the tackle. But the ball was played when he was offside, and it did squirt to another Juventus, but they called it back for being offside. They did not do it in this game, and it caused the Villa coach, I forget his name, to get a red card instant for arguing, sent off, and end up causing. I mean, it changed the game, the complexity of it. Just as of today, the Premier League came out and said that they were wrong in making that judgment call, and that was offside. But everything in between that time period was like all the commentating on it was saying a law of the rule is that he was onside. And so it's kind of like the weird handball in the box when the guy's not looking, like, and it's like, dude, it's kind of annoying that the Premier League is doing this where they're changing rules mid-season like there. I don't remember them ever doing this, and they've done it twice this season. Do you guys, did you see the play? Do you know?
I did see the play, and I saw that they came out today and said that it should have been offside. And yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that there shouldn't be commentators saying one thing and then 2 days later the FA says another thing. Like, have your clear-cut rules and follow them, and have the referees follow them. Like, and it's crazy to me that they put in the VAR system, and that's made refereeing worse.
Yes.
Like, how do you add this extra additional weapon to your arsenal, and you somehow end up worse? So
It's like
just like
you're trying to like outsmart themselves because they have VAR. So like now everything is so much more complex because you have the ability to use VAR. Like it's what they lean on, but VAR gets it. Like I just don't understand at this point like what the purpose of VAR is. There's many things that I don't think like the NFL does right, but this is like one of those things where like like have a challenge flag or something. Like
Should they do it like hockey does, where they don't use VAR unless the coaches want to claim it as VAR?
Dude, I don't know what the answer is, but that could be a whole nother segment for us to do. But like as it stays right now, it's like it's not good. It's just not good.
Like, for instance, the main one that drives me crazy is you clearly see the guy is offside on offense, and he gets the ball on offense, and he's offside, but they don't raise the flag right away, and because they don't want to stop a goal scoring opportunity just in case. And then what ends up happening is that the defender tracks back right away and kicks it out of bounds. And instead of calling it offside like they should have right away, they didn't call it. And sometimes that actually works against them, and it's a corner kick or something, at that point. So yeah, I'm completely on point with you, Jack, because I feel like there's such a big organization and such a big league, they shouldn't have these issues that are like no brainers in my mind. But here we are, talking about like City Villa, and then a week later the guys are coming out and saying, hey, sorry, our bad, like, sorry Villa, that cost you not just today but one or two more games without your coach. Like it matters.
And I mean, that's a huge momentum shifter. I think, was that the first goal of the match? It was 0-0 at the time. Yeah, I mean, that's a big momentum shifter. Yeah, I mean, something's changed.
So after that whole thing happened, the next game, I didn't really catch all of it, but Villa played like yesterday, and their coach was in the stands with a speaker and headset and was talking to the assistants that were down running the pitch. So it reminded me of that time when the Mexican coach from I think, I can't remember the team, but when he got kicked out of the game and was coaching from the stands, like that's exactly what this guy was doing. It was awesome because like you could do that now with no one in the crowd. You can just sit up there and do whatever you want. Moving on though, two other games that I watched. Fulham United, not much to talk about there. United's on a tear right now. That's about it. Fulham's still trash, but if they would have had Anthony Robinson, maybe they would have done a little bit better. But who knows? And then the last one is sorry, Keegs, Burnley Liverpool. 1-0 Burnley, masterclass. Dude, they got the goal that they needed, and then they just stuck it to them and like locked it in, parked the bus, and they took their chances when they had to. Liverpool 0 wins in the last 5. I'm not saying they haven't drawn, but they have not won in 5 games in the Premier League. I don't know. I'm wrong with them right now. I'll let you talk about that, Keegs. But Burnley took it to them. And like I wanted to text the group, but I ended up just texting Jack the score because I'm like, I got to tell someone this great news I have right now.
Masterful.
So yeah, so that's all I watched. I mean, there was a lot. Sorry, I took up so much time, but yeah, there's a ton to talk about. What did you guys watch, Keegs?
Good stuff, Toby. Good stuff. You covered most of it, but Milan and Atalanta was an interesting one that I watched this week. So for those of you who haven't been following Serie A quite as close as us, um, Milan and AC Milan and Inter Milan are kind of 1 and 2 right now and heading the table. And Atalanta is a team that's threatened over the last year and a half to really be a top player in Serie A. And Atalanta looked super dangerous this whole game. They totally dominated AC Milan uh, from defense through midfield up to attack. Um, Maybe a little bit of a hot take here, but I'm not sure if there's anyone in the world who brings as much to their team offensively as Josep Ilicic brings to Atalanta.
Ooh, that's bold.
Yeah, it is bold. I would argue actually probably Kevin De Bruyne,
Bruno Fernandes.
Bruno, and maybe Harry Kane. But other than that, I mean Ilicic. I mean, numbers wise, those guys are up there with him, but Ilicic is literally the engine of this team. He does everything. Um, it sucks that Papu Gomez and Gasperini butt heads so much because those two running midfield together was amazing. And I'll go ahead and just jump ahead. Papu Gomez, we posted on our Instagram today. He has moved on. He is joining Sevilla. So he'll join Ivan Rakitic in their midfield. So that'll be a really, really, they're 4th right now in La Liga. So that'll be pretty interesting to see how they finish up the season because those are one super talented midfielders, but super experienced midfielders as well that will be kind of leading Sevilla. So that'll be um, an interesting second half of La Liga. But anyway, long story short, Serie A is shaping up to be super fucking fun. The league table right now, you've got AC Milan with 43 points, Inter in second with 41, and then just behind them you've got Roma with 37, and then Juve and Atalanta are both tied with 36. Like I mentioned earlier, Juve have won Serie A I think 11 years in a row. So it's pretty cool to see this tight of competition up at the top, especially with AC Milan and Inter Milan going, uh, head to head, toe to toe. It's really cool to see, and it makes matches like today in Super Copa a lot more interesting and a lot more heated, as Toby touched on. Um, Also watched Liverpool Man United, of course. Jack and I got together to watch that match on Sunday. And yeah, it's tough to diagnose exactly what Liverpool's problem is. I feel like we've talked about it the last 3 or 4 weeks, so I won't harp too much on it. But just lack of creativity up front. Um, some of their strikers seem pretty uninspired. Uh, and people have mentioned too, and I don't want to give them too much of an excuse or anything, but really for the last 2.5 seasons, um, going on 3 seasons, they've played at such a high level that they were bound to crash at some point. You know, it's like the person who's like otherworldly, like productive, and then they just have that crash eventually, or like a little kid who's just eating a fuck ton of candy and is just like zooming around the house. Like they got to take a nap at some point. So I don't want to give them an excuse, but somebody kind of broke that down and put it into perspective like that, where really the last 2.5 seasons, 3 years ago when City won the Premier League by like 25 points, the second half of the season, Liverpool were unbelievable. Following season, they won the Champions League, and then last year they won the Premier League. So I guess I'm giving them a little bit of an excuse, but it was nice to hear that perspective and kind of
Yeah,
calm
Well,
my a little bit.
dude,
Go ahead, boys. Come on.
go ahead,
I
Jack.
mean, like, to a
I'm right
degree,
here.
sure. But then it's like you look at how much you spend on your rosters, and like, I mean that's everybody's thing, right? Like, I- if you look at how much they've brought in over the last couple of years, like they still got to be fit for like the amount of money that you spend to bring them in, right? Like, you're bringing in new players. I don't know, like I mean, I don't know, that's my take. That's kind of like, but that's the argument against Bielsa, right? Like, they've been playing at a high caliber for so long. I'm not trying to equate them to Liverpool, like what they've done, but it's like you're playing a high intensity, a lot of football over the last couple of years. The difference, though, is that Liverpool have been throwing still globs of money at that roster to keep it up and going, right? Like their secondary, as a Everton fan who saw their 18-year-olds beat our first team last year in the cup game, like their second tier is better than half of the Premier League's first, you know, their first 11. So I don't know, like things
So,
like that.
Yeah,
what do you? I mean, this is on the backbone of Frank Lampard being out, being sent off. Do you think it's Jurgen Klopp at this point? Do you think he's not getting what he's supposed to out of the roster, or do you think it's the roster itself? I mean, because
yeah.
they look lost on defense. Like, you know, I'm not gonna harp too much on Van Dyke being out, but without having someone who's like a staunch, like I can depend on defender, like Trent Alexander Arnold does not look as sexy as he used to, and neither does what's his name on the right side. Uh
Rob.
he doesn't look nearly as good either because both of them aren't like they're not set up to play as far back as they want to. Like there's times like I know it was a Meg, but a dude from Burnley like put a slick ass move on Trent Alexander Arnold. Like it looked like he was on skates. Like he's just not that great of a defender. But I don't think he ever was brought in to be that great of a defender. He's brought in to just do his swinging passes, and I think they're really being exposed not having a defender. But I don't know. Is it Klopp to bring that out or like what?
I think a mix. I mean, we've talked in past weeks about what Van Dyke brings to them, and I mean that's the basis. That his reliability in the back is what allows Robertson and Alexander Arnold to get forward and be creative, and not like Alexander Arnold is not a great defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great right back, but he's not a great defender at all. And the reliability of a Van Dyke is what allows that. So yeah, I mean, I think when you remove that, you remove the basis and the cornerstone of that structure, and the other pieces fall. But I think a lot of it does fall on Klopp to an extent. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not behind the scenes there. I don't know what that's like in the locker room right now. But I mean,
Did
Salah
you
doesn't
see?
look inspired. Mane doesn't look inspired. They don't seem to have any drive right now.
Did you see him
Um,
going at the Burnley coach at half?
yeah, dude, and he's doing a lot of shit like that lately, and that's the thing. Like,
It looks petty right now that they're not
yeah,
winning. When
yeah,
you're winning, so be it.
winning, show that fire. It's great, and it's like, all right, yeah, you're excited, but when you're losing, and he tends to do, and I've gotten on him before. Like, I have no issue with criticizing this dude. I think he's brought great success to the club. I think he's a great manager, but I have no issue with criticizing him, especially when like he can be like really fucking petty and very like sulky. when things don't go his way and almost pouty when things don't go his way. And it's like, dude, that's not what we need right now. We need somebody who's going to get in these dudes' asses, pause, and light a fucking fire under them and be like, yo, it's time to start playing Sadio Mane. It's time to start playing Mo Salah. It's time. Bobby, your head's been up your ass for 8 months. Like, you got to start playing. We need that creativity back. And if they're not going to, give Minamino a chance. I'm not really sold on Minamino, but throw him in there and give these dudes something to think about.
So
Because Holta had all three of those dudes fearing for their jobs, and now that he's hurt, they're comfy and they're not doing anything. So something's got to change.
personally, if I was playing for him, I'd be like, okay, we can do. It's right there for the taking. This game is, and then to see your coach freaking out like that, I'd be like, oh shit, maybe it isn't doing as hot. And then to kind of compound it, and then also to bring it from another perspective, but to compound it, he didn't start Firmino or Salah in that game against Burnley, and like so, I think he was trying to light a fire under that. It's like, hey, I'm gonna bench you guys, bring in. I think it was Iwobi or I can't remember who it was. Origi, one of the two was in there, and someone else. And so he had them in there instead, and like it it didn't really work. And then to make things even worse, I think Burnley took that and they're like, "Hey, f these guys! Like they're not going to play their starters. Like let's bring it to them." And that's exactly what they did. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the risk you have to take as a manager. For me personally, I mean, you saw Mo score two against United and two good goals against United on Saturday. So to me, that did work for him. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answers for the fucking club right now.
well, what
Bad
else did you
place.
watch, Jax?
To your point, Jack. Um, it is a matter like you compare them to Everton or to fucking Burnley or these clubs that they're losing to. Um, and you can't make an excuse for losing to Burnley. You can't make an excuse for losing five in a row. But at the same time, the state of the club is the state of the club. Like losing these players is that does throw off the rhythm overall. Like their B side is better than some of these teams' A side for sure. But the club
But
itself,
isn't that then like on Klopp though? I mean, like you can only hold Van Dyke. And that was 2 months ago or 3 months ago now. Like, if you have to change the system because it's not working without him, like, is Klopp just incapable of doing that? Because you got to be flexible when there's injury.
right? Yeah, I
Like you
think it
can't
falls
just
on
keep
Klopp.
holding Van Dyke as a thing. Like, change the system if the fucking thing was hinging on him and it's not working now. You know,
Yeah, yeah. That's where the
you have enough skill in those players to be able to like figure it out else out. Like otherwise, I don't know. Otherwise, the zombie dust will get to you.
yeah you gotta find a way to get them to perform. Yeah, and that's on him. But anyway, I don't want to talk about Liverpool anymore for like ever
Oh,
again.
I'll bring them up a
I'll
little
let Jack.
Move on.
Uh,
My,
I'll
my,
let Jack talk about it because we
my,
watched that match.
which one? Oh, Everton. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wait, they're playing right now? I
no, they
haven't
play
I haven't
tomorrow.
seen Everton in like 3 weeks.
Dude, it's been a sad time. Like I haven't been able to watch any meaningful things I like really cared about for literally. I think it was like
Holy
10
shit, that
days or
sounds
something like
depressing.
that. Huh?
I said that sounds depressing.
It was.
Nothing meaningful.
So yeah, I watched Liverpool, United. We are talking about that. So yeah, Everton, Sheffield, Wednesday. Um, I mean, really the only there was a couple big takeaways. One was that Carlo started his really his best 11. So like that's just a sign of Carlo and the club taking this cup seriously. And being able to get into the fifth round. So a 3-0 victory over the Owls. Good to see goals from DCL, Richarlison, Mina, but especially DCL and Richarlison, who just needed to get some goals, get their confidence back up. Um, Yeah, so just a professional. I'd call that like your stereotypical professional game. Did what you had to do. Um, and yeah, like you feel good about it. We're in the fifth round for the first time in 5 years, and it's going to be up against Spurs on February 10th. So again, the biggest takeaway for me was seeing that Carlos taking this seriously, putting his best 11 on there. Richarlison pissed when he had to come off, and I really like to see that. He was having fun, and I think he wanted to score another goal. But yeah, just nothing else to say except we'll see what we do for the Spurs. Um, yeah, and looking forward to that. It's gonna be a big one.
Oh,
So
no, definitely.
Yeah, professional is a good word for it. They came in and did a job, and there were no questions that there never seemed to be a doubt that in their mind that they were, you know, three healthy steps above Sheffield,
yeah,
which was actually really fun to watch. Despite my hat, I really enjoy watching Everton when they're playing well and when they're confident and when, like you mentioned, they've got their kind of their prime 11 out there. It's fun to watch.
yeah.
I'd love to see that Spurs out.
And I mean, James found the game, kind of like eased into it more and more, but then like he teed up Richarlison and Mina on their goals. Like just to see, he just brings another class. Like it lifts up another level to be able to have him on the pitch and be able to setting these people up. So like that was good to see too, him healthy and everything. The only other game that I watched was Lazio and Sassuolo, which was really fun. Again, we're hyping up Syria
Are
today,
you becoming a Swallow fan? Is this
dude.
your
I love watching them. I love watching them.
this is like 3 weeks in a row you've watched them? Yeah, good.
They lost this one. Lost this one 2-1. But still a really fun open match. But Lazio, it was 1-1. And then going into the 71st minute, Immobile, you can't give him a chance in the 18, and he just buried one in the 71st minute. Ends 2-1 Lazio. But again, another really fun game to watch in Serie A, and yeah, watching Lazio and Sassuolo trying to get into European positions, which was really cool. So
Yeah,
yeah, those are the games that I watched.
it's a tight race. Sassuolo's they're the Brews and Belters hipster club of the podcast. If you're gonna step into the sport and choose a Serie A team to watch, that'd be a good one to start following.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Very quickly, while Jack stepped out for a second before we get into Chelsea, we'll just run through the Premier League table real fast. Um,
Was this updated as of today?
as of today, so
There's a mind blower in there. Go for it.
God, hold on, my notes are freaking out a little bit. All right, so as of today, Manchester City leads the table, 41 points. Manchester United right behind them with 40, and then you've got Leicester with 38, and then West Ham, baby, in fourth place with 35 points, and then it gets really
What
tight.
the fuck is
Yeah,
going on?
and then it gets really tight with Liverpool behind them in fifth with 34, Tottenham with 33, Everton with 32, and then you drop down to eighth place, Arsenal with 30.
Sorry,
Uh,
I didn't mention this just quickly that Everton starting such a strong 11 with Leicester coming in the midweek. So we have Leicester tomorrow, Wednesday. So again, just one more point to show there of like why it was interesting that he's played such a strong starting 11. And yeah, I will also, just for you guys to know, I will be DVRing the game tomorrow. So do not text me, do not do anything tomorrow. I will be watching Everton tomorrow night in the coziness of my home in the evening
with a
With a
frothy
beverage.
with a frothy beverage. I'll be bouncing back and forth because the Hawks are on NBC Sports. So bounce back and forth. It'll be great.
Good.
Excellent.
To follow up with your rankings or your rankings with the standings, Keegs, uh, Miguel Antonio from West Ham is having like an MVP season. I don't know if you guys. I try not to watch much West Ham. You know,
Oh,
like
dude, they're
they have
fun.
brick top.
They're fun right now, man.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like they have a legit good team.
Yeah.
Like they're like I don't know how to even describe it. They shouldn't be where they are, but they are. It's kind of like Aston Villa this year. Like Aston Villa had to play the last game of the season last year and wait to find out if another team lost to say that they weren't relegated, and now they're number 7 or 8 in Premier League this year. Like bonkers year, yeah, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah. I've got another note on that, but that'll wait. Let's talk Chelsea a little bit. Tobes, I know you.
I'm gonna get a beer for
But
this.
finish your standings. So where does Chelsea stand right now?
Oh,
Like,
so
and
so
on how many points? Just tee up our Chelsea conversation.
we'll keep going. Yeah. So that's a great segue actually. So I went down to eighth place, Arsenal, 30 points, and then 9, 10, and 11 are Aston Villa, Chelsea, and Southampton, all tied with 29 points.
So
Um,
29 points is where they sit.
and Manchester City lead the league with 41. Yes. So, yeah, let's get into it. I might grab another beer for this as well, but I'll just kind of tee it up for you guys and go over the obvious. Frank Lampard was sacked. It's been in discussion for a while. We've talked about it over the last couple weeks, mentioning he'd be on the hot seat. This is pretty standard for Chelsea too. I mean, we've seen managers with far higher expectations come in, much better experience, much better reputations as far as managers go, and they've been given a pretty short leash. Um, just for a
He
little bit of context.
he was the freaking golden boy though. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, a
he's
little
one
bit
of the
different. Him
most.
being a player, former player.
He's one of the.
Not just a former player. Like
Yeah,
the
he's going to go down as one of the best Chelsea players of all time. And then for him to rise to stardom as quickly as he did, like I feel like they rushed it. Now that it's in hindsight, at the time I'm like, oh, why not? You know, but you don't see United bringing fucking Wayne Rooney out right now. You know, like maybe Everton next year. I don't
I mean,
well,
people have compared him to Gerrard in that regard. Gerrard went over and he's seen great success with Rangers in the Scottish Premier League, and I think it is a tale of too much too soon, especially not only managing Chelsea, a huge club, but Chelsea after they just splashed 200 million in one summer. They're bringing in a bunch of new players, not just a bunch of new players, but with the exception of Thiago Silva, a bunch of young players, and having them play together. Two young players from Germany who, you know, language barrier, cultural barrier, brand new move to a new country. When I mean, fucking Kai Havertz is like 19 years old. That's a lot. That's a lot for a manager, a young manager like that. So yeah, I definitely think a little bit too much too soon.
well, too much too soon. Too much too soon, but you also they expected too much too soon. So like the difference
Yeah,
between like Gerrard, so like Gerrard was coaching Liverpool's like U18s before he went to Rangers for a couple of years, right? And now he's been with Rangers, which nothing against Derby County, right? Rangers is a much bigger club than Derby, and he's managing them into a championship caliber team in Scotland. Like their team, he's going to be moving on to something bigger and better. I didn't have a problem with moving Frank into the Chelsea job when they did. He had a good year with Derby. You give him a little bit of leash because he's on a transfer ban when he moves into Chelsea. Chelsea can't do any transfers for a year because of their stuff that they got their hands slapped on. So like give him the leash that he's due, one being a newer manager, two, the state of the club that Chelsea's in. like I just don't like. I wonder what the expectations were for him coming in to be like you're gonna be winning. Like your expectation is to be in Europe on a consistent basis. At what point? Like it must have been this year if that was the agreement. But that's only a year after a transfer ban. A year, remember, like we all said last year that he did way more than he should have because of the talent that he had. Because he was pretty much playing all the kids, right?
I was gonna say he brought up all the
Tammy
kids. That's when
Abraham, playing all those
Mason
dudes.
Mount,
Mason
uh,
Mount, you know.
Hudson Adoya, and then also Tammy Abrams.
Yeah, and so like that's the thing that
Abraham.
I don't understand with this is I just can't imagine that leash being so tight, which I know that's Chelsea's thing is it's a tight leash and like they let you go. But given his lack of experience and given the position that the club was in, like what did you expect at this point? Like, and I'm not saying that he's innocent in all things because obviously there's stuff that he has to work on and obvious gaps that he has as a manager, but man, I would be real if it was me as a Chelsea fan, like I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed.
Yeah. So I mean, to kind of put in perspective, Tottenham over that time period, or let's just say over the last month and a half, Tottenham's last 8 games, 6 wins, 2 draws. City has won 11 straight games, 11 straight. They've won every single one of them. Arsenal over the last 6, so pretty much since Christmas, is 5 wins and a draw. Liverpool 0 wins and 5. Sorry, Keegs, I already said that stat, but I'm going to throw it out there again for you. And United is 8 of 9 wins, and I think they had 1 draw as well. So they've won 8 of their last 9. They did lose to Leicester, and then they had 1 win or 1 draw. So I mean, Chelsea being Chelsea, like, I mean, I'm a Tottenham's fan. Chelsea is the number 1 team in London. You know, it goes. In my opinion, it's Liverpool, United, City, Chelsea. Those are the top 4. Like
in London.
No, just in general in the Premier League. And then I would say, and then it's Chelsea, and Chelsea's the cream of the crop in London over Arsenal and over Crystal Palace, Tottenham, whoever else. You know, like in my mind, that's how I've always put Tottenham and Arsenal. You know, especially over the last 10 years. But Chelsea, they aren't getting what they need to, and so they made the change and they brought in Thomas Tuchel from PSG. I'm not very impressed with the hire. I don't know a ton about PSG, but I know from Champions League specifically. Granted, he gets them to the Champions League specifically all the time, but that's also a big difference and jump in quality of play from league to league. But I don't know if his like cooler sitting German style is gonna work necessarily at Chelsea. I don't know. Like I literally think they brought him in because he has history with some players like Christian Pulisic, you know, which is one of their darling players. And then the 2 Germans that they brought in, Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. Like I literally think Timo Werner struggling as much right as he is right now. I think that had a huge role in with where things are at right now for Frankie Four Fingers. Like, I think that's why they brought in Thomas Tuchel. Like, I think they're trying to crack that nut when it comes to those guys, get them to play proper. Because there was always issues. Like every week, I feel like we were talking something else that was an issue at Chelsea, and I don't think Frank ever had an answer for any of them. You know, like yeah, your defense sucks. Like he's like, oh, let's get new defenders. Like instead of being like, oh, Kurt Zuma, Rudiger, whoever, like you guys need to figure this shit out. We don't just want to sub in Ben Chilwell, you know, something like that. Like their midfield is in shambles, in my opinion. In the center of the midfield, like they have like Conti, and then they have a
Jorginho,
who hasn't been playing well this year. Yeah, Conte hasn't been playing very well this year.
Yeah, so that's the center of their pitch is just not solid. So I don't know if Thomas Tuchel's going to come in and do that either.
See, but like what Tuchel will bring is Tuchel does not have a he's even though he comes from the same vein as Klopp coming from Mainz, uh, he has a opposite philosophy. He's much more like Ancelotti, where he doesn't have a set thing that he's trying to bring. He will adapt to the situation at a club and be able to try to bring out the best in players, right? Where like Klopp and his tradition is like he plays the gegenpress, he plays the high press all the time. Doesn't matter who's on the pitch. Um, and so like that will be interesting to me of like what Tuchel does and like how he assesses these players to be able to try to get the most out of the situation where you could see Frank was really you could tell that he was coached by Jose, right? Like he tried to play like a Jose style, but it just like it was like Jose light, like it just like, but it didn't work. And
Yeah.
so anyway, so it'll be interesting to see like what Tuchel does differently, and but yeah, but that's what he does.
So
The thing that
so with
Tuchel
that,
though does not do well is that he doesn't do well with internal relationships. I mean, he burnt bridges at Dortmund. He burnt bridges at PSG, and so like a place like Chelsea, where one guy runs the whole show, how's that gonna work? Because I think he'll make it work on the pitch. Like I think Tuchel is a master. I mean, I don't think this. Like this isn't a bold statement. Like he is one of the best to be able to get uh, guys playing in a system that works well. But the back office is what he flounders in, and I don't know it. I think it's destined to burn, but we'll see.
oh, that's why we're here. Like,
Let it.
I hope it. I I hope it does. While Christian Pulisic is scoring a bunch of goals in the process, but I hope it just burns. Like, I'm fine with it. Totally fine with it. So who do you guys think is going to be most affected by this? Because I'm not gonna lie, like Mason Mount has come on as being one of their best players under Frank Lampard. Like to the point where, like, do you remember that part of Harry Potter where he like they storm at the very end of Deathly Hallows? They come back into the castle and they're back at Hogwarts, and like he's telling Snape, he's like, how do you, like, why are you standing where he stood? How can you do that? Like that's what Mason Mount is saying to fucking Tuchel right now. Like because he was a total Frankie Four Fingers dude. Like he was a Lampard guy. Like Mason Mount is. So do you think he'll be affected? Like I can see this being good for Christian Pulisic. I can see it being good for the two Germans. I don't know about Hudson Odoi and Tammy Abraham. Like some of the England guys, I guess. I don't know how it's going to affect them positively because I think Thomas Tuchel's just kind of going to go with the flow, and whoever's performing is who he's going to go with. You know, he doesn't really have any relationships, so.
I think as a professional, he's got to come in and see that Mason Mount has been their talisman recently offensively, and he's got to play him. I mean, how do you not? If Ole was sacked, like somebody's not going to come in and sit Bruno just because they don't have that relationship with him, or they're not from Portugal, or they're not. I mean, I
Yeah.
think he's got to play Mount right now. I think Mount's far and away their best player at the moment. Or their most impactful player at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like he's got to play him. I do think it's a good attempt to maybe make Werner and Havertz feel more comfortable though, because like we discussed, they're young dudes who, especially Havertz, who have come to a new club in a new country. So it could possibly provide some sort of comfort or remedy for them, but
I mean,
I can't imagine that's the only reason that they brought him in.
you have
for
to
2
you have to hope that Tuchel is a much more well-rounded coach, being that he has been at Dortmund when Dortmund was at the prime of like of fostering young talent for the rest of the world, and but also challenging for cups and trophies, and also his time at PSG where he was dealing with the biggest names and the biggest egos in the world, right? So like you hope that he's able to bring that experience to a Chelsea that wants to bring in big names, wants to bring in and win titles and do all the things that Chelsea wants to do, but also right now has a lot of young talent, um, and all of that. So like it's going to be interesting to see how he's grown as a manager through those experiences. Um, what would you say is like your take? Like where right now, where's Chelsea going to end at the end of the year now with Thomas Tuchel? Where do they end the season at?
First of all, I want to say I think that's an amazing point to bring in his past experiences because this really does, now that you mention it, really does feel like sort of the pinnacle.
You convinced Keegan right then and there.
Well,
Great hire.
you kind of told me on him. I think that's like really good stuff, Jack, because I mean it's true. Like you've got plastic ass PSG where it's a bunch of egos, and then you have like hardworking Dortmund where it's a bunch of young guys with talent who are just gonna play their asses off. And he's been on both sides, you know, and now he's kind of bringing that together at Chelsea. It almost feels like the perfect storm for him. So I don't know. I think only time will tell, really. This season, as we've mentioned, has been super unpredictable. So if it goes well, I could see them working back up to top four. If it goes poorly, I can't see them finishing worse than like 13, 14.
Top four is bold. That is bold.
I was
I,
gonna. I'm
I
gonna
think
say 4 to
I
8
think
range.
literally best case scenario. I think that's if he comes in and does a phenomenal job, that's as high as I can see them going.
Yeah, Keeks, you have to remember West Ham right now is eating caviar and lobster, bro. They ain't leaving that top 4 spot. Like
I
they're
hope they don't.
yeah,
I hope
they're
they don't. But if he comes in and Chelsea starts clicking the way that their roster and those names are capable of clicking, I think top four would be doable with what 4 months left, 3.5 months
Mhm.
left. I think it
No,
could
that makes total
happen.
sense to me.
Best
Um,
case scenario.
Sorry, Tobes, were you gonna jump in on that question?
no, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, because to me, like they go right now. I think Thomas Tuchel can get the most out of these guys at least through the rest of the year, and it gets them into Europe. Like I think that they'll now, obviously, I like hot take that they'll finish higher than West Ham. I think they'll finish. They have a strong chance of finishing higher than Everton. And like if they beat out those, like I mean, it's pretty much a top six, right? So if and they get into Europe, so like I would say 5 or 6. I don't think they have enough to go top four, even with Tuchel
Fair.
there. If he gets that, like I think Leicester right now is a pretty well-oiled machine, but tomorrow. Leicester and Everton are going to be that's a huge match tomorrow for the rest of the year. Um,
Yeah.
depending on how that goes, like that to me is pretty much is Everton gonna be top six or not?
And so
So
I mean, don't forget they're in the fucking Champions League. Like that's huge. And so I think that's gonna really I think that had a lot to do with it as well with having someone who has a lot of experience with that. Whereas Frank Lampard, like I don't know, like they weren't in it last year and this year they're in the Champions League, but they were performing pretty well, but they weren't like great by any means. You know, it kind of felt like it was just a normal League Cup game at that point, like the FA or something. Like he wasn't putting out like on a consistent basis. So I really think like they require that at Chelsea to win all that, and so I think that had a lot to do with it when it comes to the Champions League, and so there's a few other guys that I thought maybe would have been better than Thomas Tuchel for that position. I wrote down a lot of them, but the only ones like I don't think Steven Gerrard would ever coach at Chelsea, just being the Liverpool guy. Um, but RB Leipzig, Julian Nagelsmann, I think that's his last name. He's very impressive in my opinion. He's young too, like he's our age. I want to say he's like 34. So I could see him because I mean whereas we were talking about the guy from fuck, I can't remember. But anyways, there's other guys who would like come in and maybe take over that position. But
Dan
RB
Marsh?
Leipzig is
Jesse
Shane
Marsh.
Marsh.
yeah,
Dan
Stan
Marsh.
Marsh.
AKA
So,
Stan.
but he would come in and take over like a Dortmund or something, which would be a step up for him. But RB Leipzig, is it that much of a step up to go to Borussia Dortmund? Like maybe a little bit, but not a ton. Um, so what he's doing with RB Leipzig, like I think he would have to go to a super team, which would be like Chelsea. And so I figured that would be a good hire for them. I also thought like Leon Rudy Garcia is an awesome manager, and then Gasperini from Atalanta. I think he's on the uptick as well. And Atalanta is a really good team. They're a top 4 team. Um, but I think he could do better outside of there if he would go to like a top 1 or 2 team in one of the other divisions, wherever that might be. Then within the Premier League, I have honestly my favorite coach that's like in the middle of a pack team is the Wolves coach, Nuno Santo. I really like him. I know they weren't doing too hot last year, 2 years ago, but he puts together a good squad and like gets the most out of his players, and they don't spend a lot, like they just don't. So that's kind of some other players that I figured would be, or some other coaches I figured would be on the uptick when it came to possible alternatives, because I don't see Thomas Tuchel being like the long-term answer. I'm probably going to be eating my own words in a year from now, but
There's no such thing as a long-term answer at Chelsea. So
They'll loan him out to 15.
I was just going to say that. Thank you, Keegs.
But yeah, in a conversation that we had earlier this week, I know at least Toby and I were talking about it. Jack, you kind of sold me on Tuchel, but who knows? Only time will tell. But we talked about the loan system last year and just kind of the morality of it. Money spent not paying off. Lampard project didn't work out. It'll be interesting to see how they recover, if the machine has broken, or if the machine will, if Tuchel will be able to repair it.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't go 0 wins in 5 games like certain other teams, but you never know. It is what it is.
Somebody, I forget who, I want to say like Gary Lineker or somebody on Twitter had mentioned. Also, though, just to comment on how brief Chelsea managers seem to stay around. He tweeted out just kind of how ridiculous it was, how short the leash was. And somebody responded, Sir Alex wouldn't have made it a year at United if he was a manager in today's game. And it was just kind of a thought-provoking comment to read.
Last point on Tuchel coming in. So Tuchel is coming in when they are going. These are their next fixtures: Wolves, Burnley, Spurs, Sheffield, Newcastle.
So definitely 3, probably 4 guaranteed wins.
Good time to start.
And then nothing guaranteed, but that's not a bad time to start your rookie.
That was so. I mean, this is my booze as well. I'm not going to get into it for the second, but like they won over the weekend in the FA Cup. I mean, granted, it was against Luton Town 3-1, but like I thought that would have bought him some time. Remember I was last week's podcast. I'm like, dude, if they don't perform well, like he's gone. But 3-1, like it is what it is. And so I don't know about the timing of this whole thing. Like I feel like you should have done it in the off season. I don't know though. That's why I think the Champions League is so much relevant.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Starting
yeah, they want something. They want to get something out of this season, even if it's not. So yeah, it makes you wonder too if they had their mind set up before that match and they just let him kind of coach that match and then break the news. I don't know. I've never run a professional football club, so I'm not sure.
We should try it sometime. All 3 of us.
We should just buy a club with all the money we've got. Other news, actually, I already mentioned Alejandro Gomez to Sevilla, so that was really the only thing I wanted to discuss that in the Villa City offside, which Toby had mentioned. So let's move on to our Belters of the Week. Jack, what you got?
Belter, we'll go with Josh. Belter, we'll go with Josh Sargent, the American for Bremen, with a really good goal right outside the 18 on Hertha Berlin. Go
He
back
broke
and
through a
watch
wall with that one. Like,
that, dude. It was like that right off, kind of like off the front of the foot slice that kind of went away from where the goalie was expecting, just getting out of his reach. However, concerning it, only his second goal of the season, 17 appearances, but a really good one. But adding on to the shit pile, which is Hertha Berlin, who's having a terrible season, sitting at 14 points, 2 points off of relegation. For a big money club, that really is not where they want to be. But a great goal for Josh Sargent for my Belter.
yeah.
Yeah, super great turn too. It's interesting. He is having kind of a rough year numbers wise, but like Romelu Lukaku esque on the turn there, like bodied up Guendouzi, little fake out, quick turn. I mean, he's got that like true striker, like physical striker ability, where he's a really nice blend of athleticism, physicality, and just like raw
Mhm.
power with his
He's
shot.
young too.
Uh,
Young.
he's only
He,
19
he
or
put
20. So
literally all
yeah,
the American ginger feels of the world into that kick, like straight
This
towards it.
one's for you, Gingers.
just
All right.
up
So,
rate.
so with that, real quickly, USA announced their roster for the upcoming like Olympic whatever and like some like international play. They brought back Josie Altidore. So that brings me to my next point with strikers. I mean, he was kind of as of 2 years ago, and he's been injured and had some shit going on. Is Josh Sargent, you think, our striker the future for USA? I don't know.
I would think so, unless there's somebody else who's coming up
Matthew Dopey,
to take his.
he's got more
But
goals.
you would,
So
yeah,
Hey, like, dude, I mean, at this
yeah.
point, and the way that, who knows? It was his. You know, Bobby Wood is gone. I don't know where Bobby Wood still is on
oh,
Hamburg
so
roster
no,
somewhere.
fun facts for you. Bobby Wood is coming to the MLS this year.
Oh,
This
he
season.
is. I
See who
didn't
he
see
signed
this.
for. He signed for someone. He's coming back because he wants to kickstart his career again. He's only like 24 or 25, I want to
Say,
say.
Bobby Wood, like, I mean, Bobby Wood did not find his way with Hamburg, but I mean, maybe he kickstarts it with MLS. I mean, but at this point,
I didn't
Sargent's,
say,
Yeah, I
yeah,
want to say so. You know what? Let me fact check myself before I just 3 beers in. Let me just Bobby Wood this.
fucking Bobby Wood's going to the MLS, boys.
He is no, he's definitely coming to the MLS.
Hopi and Sargent. I mean, I feel like it's those two, and I don't know. I mean, depending on what formation they typically go with, if they decide to go with the 4-4-2, they can have those two up front, or 4-3-3 and use one or the other as a sub. But it's nice to know that there's options. You know, young options.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming to. It looks like maybe FC Cincinnati or Real Salt Lake. But yeah, he's on the transfer window right now to Real Salt Lake as of 3 days ago. And he is 28 years old, so a little bit older than I thought. So keep going with all this conversation. Another player that I really liked that got injured and like I think he tore his ACL was Paul Arriola. I thought he was a good player. I want to say he played for DC. Can't remember exactly. But he is being linked to two different championship teams, Brentford, and then also Swansea. So Swansea might have two Americans on their roster as of by February. They should. It's looking pretty close to that, which is really cool because
Just bringing him over.
I kind of like there's certain days where Saturdays when I'm hungover and I get up at like 6 a.m. and like there's nothing else on. There's no Premier League on for some reason, and I watch championship games.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like fun. and it's cool to have like an American to root for. And I really want to root for Swansea City. I mean, Derby County still, and I mean Norwich, of course, Pookie. But those are my like two teams. But I really want Swansea to be better. Like they should be, and they're not. So here we are.
All right, Toby, hit us with your take a little swig real quick.
I already
Wet the
did.
whistle and then hit
Belter of the
your
week.
belter.
I put this on our Twitter account. I tweeted this one out. It is Paul Pogba, and it was not his right foot; it was his left foot. Wednesday, smoked one. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. When he went against Fulham and just smoked it, upper left. Dude, yeah, it was great. It was a left footer. Everyone was jockeying this afterwards, and he was just like, "I'm just happy the team won." Like went full Paul Pogba in the way that I know him. That he's just like a very modest, humble, very quiet speaking person.
Very
uh, but I don't know if you guys saw that since then he's dyed his hair patchy or blonde. So yeah, he's looking really good. Like, fuck, I love Paul Pogba, and that goal was delicious.
Yeah, he's
That's
the
it.
fucking man. Yeah, my belter of the week. I actually chose Christian Eriksen's goal today. Before that, though, I have to say this. I wasn't planning on sharing this today because I thought Toby was going to choose this goal.
And it is
be
from the Turkish league where Key covers.
It's going to be Bruno's free kick actually against Liverpool because he fucking blasted that ball. And I know it took a slight deflection, but he absolutely ripped it. So yeah, I'll swallow my pride here.
He's coming up. Granted, I feel like United get like 70% more calls than anyone else when it comes to penalties and whatnot. He is slow. He's not slowly. He is, in my opinion, a top 2 or 3 place kicker. Like not just from the PK line, anywhere else. Like he is awesome. Like within 25 to 30 yards, he's almost accurate on each corner. Awesome.
Yeah. Premier League, yeah. Him, KDB, and James Ward-Prowse. Like those are the 3 guys I want over the ball.
James Ward-Prowse had a banger in the FA Cup too. Oh no, it was Premier League. They had a game on Saturday to make up for COVID. He had a banger in that one too. Just an FYI. He's slowly becoming my next guy.
All right, let's go on to our boos and cheers. I will start this off because I'm a piece of shit and I don't have a boo. I never do, I feel like. My cheer though. My cheer though is Tomas Suchek, who I mentioned like every fucking week now, but he's on fire. Him and West Ham, who, as we've discussed, are now in 4th place in the table. He had 2 goals today in a 3-2 win over Palace, and he's just on fire, man. He's one of the hottest midfielders in the league right now. Not quite in the company of your Pogbas, your Brunos, your De Bruynes that I just
Højbjerg.
He's working up into that Højbjerg area, that tier right just below them. But yeah, he's been on fire, and he's just like a madman too. He kind of plays like McKennie, where he's sort of a box to box guy, and then all of a sudden like a slashing run through the box, and just put a head on a ball or put a foot on a deflected ball and bang it in, and it's like, what the fuck just happened? And next thing you know, he's celebrating.
That's my favorite footballer. My favorite soccer player is the box to box midfielder. Like I grew up playing defense, so I love defense and like a holding midfield and like a central back position. But dude, the box to box, like those guys have the best fitness of anyone. They're not a forward, so they don't like lag when it comes to tracking back. But oh my god, like yeah, that I totally on point with what you're saying. Like awesome player. And I mean, getting back to Weston McKennie, love Weston McKennie. That's actually my cheer of the week is Weston McKennie and his celebration. The second time I'm shouting out Harry Potter, bro. his his Patronus charm with the Expecto Patronum, dude. That dirty after scoring a goal went to put him up 2-0.
It was dope.
There's certain things we don't talk enough on this show, and Harry Potter's one of them. Dragon Ball Z is another one. Like, we need to do more Dragon Ball Z, but that's another day, another story. Today's all about Harry Potter, Weston McKennie. Yeah, awesome. And that's exactly what he said. He even has a Harry Potter tattoo, I guess. Don't know if you guys saw the celebration. Like, I literally saw a Patronus charm come out of his. Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. I'm
Well,
gonna
then
have to send him
can I
Hermione's
go?
knapsack. See,
Because McKenny is in my Booze and Cheers. Can I go?
Yeah, go for it.
yes.
That was my
So-
cheer, by the way.
So McKenny is in my boo, but it's like a funny boo.
Okay, let's hear it.
Did you see the thing where he was getting interviewed by one of the Italian reporters? Did you see this?
No.
So like this Italian reporter, I gotta find the article here. So this Italian reporter comes up, you can find his face on Twitter, and starts asking questions to him in Italian, and his eyes just get like dumbfounded, just like what?
I did see that.
and then the Italian reporter goes, "No worries, I'll translate it afterwards." Like it's just like seeing the expression on his face. Like I thought it was so funny. The boo is because man, you're living in Italy now. You gotta learn the language, you know.
So he played in a USA international game, and there was a call he didn't like, and he literally went like this. Give me more. Give me. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
So that's my boo was Weston McKennie getting asked a question by an Italian reporter, which is really funny. And then my cheer, keeping it in Italy, was Pope Francis. Pope Francis this week welcomed Spezia, who is in their first year ever in Serie A. Welcomed them into the Vatican before his Wednesday audience.
Wearing masks, hopefully.
No masks, man. They're all COVID safe. It's cool. They're testing times a week.
God saves everyone.
Welcoming Spezia into the papal residence, and after their win over Roma, and his quote, which I had pulled up here. For those that don't know, also Pope Francis, being Argentinian, is a very big soccer fan, and he said, "I like to see the effort of young people in sport because sport is wonderful and it brings out all the best that we have inside of us." And then like as I was just like researching that, I saw that he when Maradona died, being Argentinian also, he called Maradona a poet on the field. So just anyway, cheers for us Catholic boys for seeing Pope Francis getting involved in the beautiful game, which is really cool to see him this week with Spezia.
I'm into it.
Good stuff.
So I also have I had my cheers, which was Wes McKennie, but I have my booze. And this is to the timing of the Chelsea sacking of Frank Lampard. And that's because Chelsea supporters bought a 49-foot banner for $1,370. They raised that money. And it literally said, "In Frank we trust, then, now, forever." And they put it up, and the next day he was sacked. And so could have just let it go a little bit longer. I feel like we could have been on to something, but what do I know? So
Good stuff.
boo.
Good stuff.
I would
Right.
hate my life if I was a Chelsea fan. Like like that club is just all over the place
Dude,
at all times.
So Chelsea fans to me are when I would go to when I would go to college, when I was in college, all of the guys at the fraternities would have fucking Chelsea jerseys on, and I'd be like, I'm like, "Oh, you watch Chelsea?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, did you see the game against Crystal Palace?" And they were like, "Clueless." And I'm like, "That's a Chelsea fan." Like, jersey chasers, bro. Like, they don't care about anything.
Played FIFA 1 or 2 times, and
Yeah.
yeah. Chelsea was. I guess when you were in school, Chelsea, that was kind of like their pinnacle.
Heyday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's all we got this week. We'll be back next Wednesday as well. We'll film on Tuesday, post on Wednesday. So we'll be back next Wednesday for all of you.
Keeks, I got a quick rumor mill actually. Jesse Lingard looks like they're gonna go on. He might go on loan to West Ham.
Jay
This is
Lee,
as of today. Jesse
How-
Lingard, dude, get him out of jail, bro. I love Jesse Lingard. Like he was on England's national team like 4 years ago. Like he's good. Same with Dele Ali, still going to PSG. Possibly he has a mysterious injury. He hasn't been playing for them. That's my rumor mill. Let's turn this one out.
he drank the water at Marine FC, and that's Dele Alli's injury. He's just been sick.
Stomach bug, baby.
They got lead in the pipes. They were like, we meant to put a sign up. Oh man. Yeah, Jesse Lingard. I'd love to see him kind of reboost his career. Who would have ever guessed he's 27 or 28 years old? He was like a young talent who just like never really actually shined. People just expected him to, and hopefully he'll pick it up. It'd be cool to see him go with them playing well. You could see him and Lanzini running things in the middle. All right.
Perfect.
I think that's all we got, boys. We'll see y'all next week. As mentioned at the beginning of the pod, follow us at Brews and Belters, Twitter and Instagram. We've been pretty good about posting content. You'll find actually at least 2 of the 3 Belters. Like Toby mentioned, he posted the Pogba Blast, and Josh Sargent's goal is on there as well. So on our Twitter at least. So yeah, check us out on there, and give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.